Yay, Brianna.
Hi.
There's Stephanie. Great. Great. All right. What do you think? You think we're good to go?
Good to go.
Okay. So I am going to call this party to order at 6:01. So I need a motion to go ahead and commence open session.
So moved.
Second.
Great, thank you. And 3.2, reporting of action taken in closed session. We had no action taken in closed session tonight. And then 3.3, attendance roll call. President Elkishin here. Clerk Reed.
Here.
Trustee Lopez-Jones.
Here.
Trustee Maxfield.
Here.
And Trustee Galindo.
Here.
Perfect. Okay, 3.4, Pledge of Allegiance. Get Paula to put the flag up. You guys are all perfect. Just a big reminder that when you need to not unmute yourself, to hit the space bar for all the votes and etc. There we go. Okay. All right. So, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You guys did not want to unmute for that, huh? All right. And then we go to 3.5, adoption of the agenda. Any changes on the agenda?
There are not, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So need a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Jeff. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Perfect. And then 3.6, the district mission statement. We are a collaborative, culturally rich educational community where a rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. All right, and then moving to 4.1, public business from the floor, non-agendized items. So just a reminder, this portion of the agenda allows for individual the opportunity to address the board on any item regarding board business and is not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into a dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to administration. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes. And so we do have one public comment that was submitted to us prior to the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and just read it. So, to the school board, I want to comment one of the agenda that is going to be talked about today, which is the ACE after school program. Online school learning is very difficult for me, as for many of my classmates. However, for me, I keep turning in my assignments in late. Not only is staying on top of schoolwork challenging, my internet connection, sorry, Paula, this is just as bad. I use the hotspot that the school has provided for me, but it disconnects me during my Zoom classes, making it harder for me to reconnect. I feel like a program like ACE being available for us students to attend all day, where we would have reliable internet, someone to support us and constantly remind us to turn in work, would be very important, and having everything available for us as students to feel more at school. Thank you for your time, Alejandra Sanchez. So I'm putting that out there in response to what the students are feeling they need. And then moving on to 5.1. Thank you, Alejandra, when she sees this recording. Public hearing, 5.1, protocol of a public hearing. As an elected governing body of Calistoga Joint Unified School District, the Board of Trustees conducts public hearings for the purpose of maintaining open communication with parents, students, and residents of the Calistoga Community and School Board. Through the public hearing process, trustees seek ideas and viewpoints regarding the efficiency and quality of district-sponsored programs or any other area of the operation of the district and its schools. The trustees believe that open communication is the key to an ongoing process of district, school, and program improvement. So 5.2, Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, LCP. So I'm going to turn that over to Erin, and sorry for the delay. My printer didn't print everything very legible, so sorry.
Can we have an open public hearing time, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. So, oh, I skipped right over there. So opening the public hearing at 6:07. I'm sorry, Paula, thank you for keeping me on track. So at this point, if anybody has any comments or anything they want to add before we go into the presentation of it, now's the time. Okay, now I can go to Erin.
Mhm.
Okay.
So for those of you on the board, you're aware that the draft of the LCP is in your board packets, and it's also available to public members who are attending. So I am going to go through just the highlights of this plan because it is 17 pages long. And again, it's accessible to you if you'd like to see it. So the difference between the LCP and the LCAP, both are requirements of all California public schools, county offices, and also charter schools. And let me go here. Okay, Paula, I'm not able to move my cursor. Hang on, please. Okay, Paula, I can't get it to move.
I'll just do it.
Okay. So there's some similarities and differences. Both are requirements by our state of California. This actually replaces the LCAP just for this school year. And it's different in that the LCP is kind of going backwards a little bit and then just is explaining the planning process through this course of this year. Whereas the LCAP is projecting out 3 years ahead. So beginning in 2021-22, again, we'll have an LCAP for the following 3 years. It is intended to memorialize what we've done, not necessarily plan from this point forward. And it has a lot of the same requirements that the LCAP does. So one of the requirements in both are that we have to have stakeholder input. So our stakeholders, as you know, are staff, students, parents, and we get input from those groups through surveys. We surveyed them, those 3 groups, way back in June, numerous times. We also have to get feedback from our DLAC and our school site councils. That was just recently, those presentations were given last week. I want to thank Monica, who did the same presentation for DLAC. And then we did something new. We combined the school site councils, and Nicole presented the information to both our site councils last week. We also have to get input from our associations. So I provided these documents to both CAT and CSEA, and they had the opportunity to ask me questions or make comments. Then we have to, by law, conduct a public hearing. That's tonight's meeting. And again, we can take community input. And then finally, the Board of Trustees has to approve the LCP just like you approve the LCAP. So we are required to use the template, just like we have a requirement for the LCAP template. And that is one reason why it is so long. We cannot change that template at all. And this is broken down a little bit differently than the LCAP because again, it's only looking at 1 year's time. So on the continuity of learning, we have to, the first component is about distance learning, and that's because we entered distance learning last spring. So that's what I'm talking about. Some of this is memorializing what we've already done and have in place. So our first priority always in schools is for safety. And so a large portion of the information under the continuity of learning has to do with safety. So for example, the PPE that we provided, all the facilities modifications that we made, all of those are listed in our LCP. But we also had to explain what our blended learning schedule is going to be because we're going to be transitioning out of distance learning into blended learning. I will caution you that there may be some slight changes in our blended learning schedule. Both the principals are currently looking at that with their staffs to make sure that what we had planned back in the summer is in fact going to work for us moving forward, because we've obviously been doing things a little differently than we did in the summer. Under distance learning or continuity learning is also, oh, can you go back one, Paula? Thank you. Oh, one more. There you go. One more forward. There, thank you. Under distance learning is obviously we pushed out all of our computers and hotspots for families. We did an immense amount of training over the summer for our teachers, and covered in within this section is also making sure that parents are understanding that we do synchronous and asynchronous instruction, meaning instruction where the teacher is live and then instruction that's on their own, independent or in groups. And then we also highlighted our new MAP assessment that Michael has mentioned to you before, and we'll be having Alex Andry explain at the October board meeting. That's a key component of our distance learning. As far as in-person learning, again, our priority is safety. Let's probably go. There you go. So a lot of the same things that we've had for distance learning, but new to this is our mental health and social health and emotional well-being. That is not necessarily a component that was in the LCAP, but is in the LCP. This is also an area that we focused on a lot this summer. We brought in a trauma-informed practices expert that was very well received by staff. All of our teachers are using classroom circles from our restorative practices training to build a sense of community in their classrooms. We also are implementing at the elementary school a new social emotional curriculum for our kindergarten through 6th grade students, and that's being done in PE. It's a new program. It's being taught by our PE teacher. As we have had in the past, we have a school counselor available to our students and our psychologist as well. And then once again, we have our contract with the Up Valley Family Center, so our students who need extra support can get that through Mentis. Another section that we had to focus on was what kind of community and family and parent outreach are we doing? So we expect all of our students to engage in their virtual learning lessons. Lack of participation, we have some steps that we follow to make sure that we're getting all of our kids involved. The first is expected to happen from the teacher. They are to reach out first. The second would be a call from the office staff. And the point of those calls is to try to determine what kind of barriers is the kid having? You know, what can we do to help them become more engaged in their classes? Then it becomes a little more formal. Our vice principals send a letter to the families. And then if that is not successful, then we begin the truancy process just like we do through a regular year. Another section of this plan, which is not necessarily in the LCAP, is school nutrition. It's a great priority for us to make sure that our kids are fed. And so, as you've heard over and over, our nutrition department has done a fabulous job of making sure that they are meeting the needs of our families. So this year, because we're CEP now, all of our CES students are going to eat free. And because the federal government has extended the summer food program, our kids in the junior, senior high school at this point in time are going to be able to eat free through the end of December. We're hopeful that the feds are going to extend that, but as of now, they will be able to eat without paying. And Rosa, again, is trying to accommodate our families. So there's a little bit of change than there was last summer. We now offer the meal pickup on Mondays and Tuesdays at the junior senior high school. And to make things more convenient, she is delivering to now 4 additional community locations to save families that transportation time. Next one. This is a commonality with the LCAP, this particular section of the LCP. We have to list and then explain the costs associated with the increased or improved services. So these are services that are above and beyond what we offer for every student in the district. We have to focus on our unduplicated students, meaning our English learners, our low-income students, and our foster youth. So on the left-hand column there for our English learners, those are the extra services that are programs that we're providing to help them with their learning loss. In the middle are low-income students. And then on the right is our foster youth. In this district, we have a very low foster youth count. So what we do is we have George Valenzuela is our foster youth coordinator. And we have such a low count that he's able to meet with the family or the foster youth family and determine specifically what that child will need. So we write like an individual plan for each kid. So after we have, we've developed our plan, we can still change this plan. It's a draft until the board actually approves it. So I have had a couple of small comments that were made after people reviewed this plan since actually it was put into the packet. So I'll make those revisions and bring it back to you at our next meeting. And it has to be approved before the 30th of this month, and that's for every school in California. So questions about it?
So who do we give the plan to? Are we sharing it with Office of Ed and State of California?
That's an excellent question. It differs from the LCAP. The LCAP does get sent to the State of California as well as the county office. The LCP is only going to the county office. So they are the only approval in this particular plan. And they've already reviewed the draft. I had them review it before I took it out to the DLAC and the Site Council.
And that's how it's going in the state of California. They're relying on their offices of education to oversee that.
They are. And I think it's just because there's such a large volume of school districts and it's only for 1 year that it just made more sense for the county office to review the plans.
Okay. Now's the time. Anybody else have any
I
questions?
do have a couple of questions for you, Erin. The first question on page A of 17, the full-time custodial position, is that position in addition to what we already have, or was that position to replace the retirement from last year?
No, we replaced the retiree, and then this is an additional position, Indira, and that position is fully supporting the junior senior high school.
Okay.
So they're on duty during the days.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The next one that I have is on page 10 in regards to the contracts for the full, the half-a-time teachers to provide the Wildcat Academy. On the blended model, what does this mean in terms of regular teachers who are going to be providing classes in person, if you will, and then aside from that, they had to do classes for the online virtual students who are participating in the academy. Are we talking about extra positions here?
No, that's a good question. These are different assignments, but we did not hire an additional 5 teachers.
So, to me, it seems like it's a little bit a lot for some of us, our teachers who are going to be working with students. And maybe, maybe I'm just thinking it too much, but if our teachers, our regular teachers, are going to be providing in-person classes, in-person assistance to the students, this is kind of an addition to it. So I don't know, Nicole, maybe, and George, Mr. Guerrero might be able to kind of chime in on this one.
Well, I can start first. Actually, what we did this summer is we got nearly 100% response from our parents regarding interest in the Wildcat Academy. So at this point, we have already started our classes. We've already assigned teachers to teach those classes. And so basically, they have been moving forward with the idea that when in-person learning comes back, that they're going to continue virtually supporting students. So those students will not be coming back in person at school.
Right.
So what we did is we actually had to rewrite the entire master schedule because of that. And so the teachers are currently working with those students. So some other things that I'm working with them on is, for example, a key piece that that the superintendent brought up, and what you're going to learn about is the MAP testing. So I'm going to be working with those academy teachers this week on how do we do that ongoing assessment for students who really cannot come back to school site.
Okay.
If I understand correctly, we have a few teachers that are designated just to academy, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I was a little worried when I saw this because of the workload and whether the teachers were going to have enough time to attend to these two separate groups, It's so that clarifies it up more. Thank you. And the other question that I have in regards to the system, in general, and recording attendance of the students. I heard a couple of comments of students who, parents who had been contacted several times by the school saying that their student is not in class and the student is there, so he's sitting there, attending, but somehow the system is not picking up the attendance. And, I really appreciate the phone call, that, hey, your student is not online, what's going on? But it's happening. The student is sitting in class, but somehow the system is, is marking the student absent.
Indira, I can address that at least at the elementary level. Something that we discovered within the first few days of school was that while we were locking our attendance system at 11 o'clock, we did not realize that the all-call system that we did not have access to switch the times on was happening at 9 o'clock. And so we got parent feedback right away of, what do you mean? My child is sitting right in front of the computer right now. And so we fixed that. The other thing, and I also immediately contacted our families and let them know of this error that was going on. And then the other thing is that with the new system with Aries, we are not locking the system so that teachers can go back and adjust their attendance. And then in addition, if the parent phone calls are going home, but it's really for a student who has not done anything between 9:15 and 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
And for us at the high school, we are also allowing our teachers up to 3 days after to go back and change their attendance if they need to, based on potential mistakes they had done, or also if it was a asynchronous day and the students submitted work that was given out on that day, then it counts towards attendance. So then they could go back and clean up their attendance a little bit. The calls do go out every day at the end of the day. But that's also, just letting parents know that, okay, call in and then we could clear the absences. We use two different platforms. We use Zoom and we use also the Google Meet. And sometimes in Zoom it's a little bit easier to take attendance because it records, and in Google Meets, I know they've been making some changes, but it's a little bit more difficult to see who's in attendance in your class at that time. So sometimes mistakes do happen, but I think that we definitely call the families to make sure that those mistakes are valid or not, and then have the families clear it down.
Great, thank you. I think that they, in general, they really appreciate the phone calls to let them know that, you know, what's happening. But yeah, that was one of the questions that I have. And finally, the comment from the public, our student that sent that note, makes me think about what is the role of the other supporting programs that we have in the school system in this, specifically the ACE program and the NCOE support that we used to have in normal years. And what is the role in this plan? Because I went back and I realized that I didn't see the ACE program in here. So are we using that support in some way?
You're actually going to be approving a contract for ACE, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
And also AmeriCorps is going to be approved too, Indira.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then along those same lines, just to go full circle, also tutoring services. Who are those being provided by this year?
Nicole, do you want to talk about tutoring?
So right now we have collected an initial list from teachers for after-school tutoring. One of the things though that is happening right now is because we now are on the road to reopening our schools, we had to put the tutoring kind of on the shelf because we have to now start thinking about cohorts, and so we have to keep the same cohorts together. And so a challenge would be that if we had tutoring and they were in a mixed cohort and we came back to school, that would not be very wise to do. In the meantime, we're also focusing in on doing our initial testing on MAP, which you're going to be hearing about. And our teachers felt pretty strongly that they wanted to do that in person. And so we are right now working on getting that data from our students. And ultimately with that data, we'll be able to make better informed decisions. But we do have a list going on and we will be following up on it.
So just to make sure I understand, there's no online after-school tutoring happening right now.
No.
No, not right now.
And for us at the junior, senior high school, we do have our paraeducators are still doing some of that tutoring support, especially during our direct student support time that we have allocated. Monica just developed a Padlet with all the schedules of the paras, and it's going to be pushed out to the teachers first and then also to the students, so they know who they can access at what times for that additional support. And then you'll probably hear a little bit later about the ACE opportunity that we have coming forward. And then we're also looking at maybe bringing small groups of students onto campus and providing some of those more direct support for those students that are the highest need.
I'm just kind of curious, how did the first Wednesday go, Raul? Was it productive?
Yes, you know, we had like a school site council meeting just recently, and some of the parents that participated in that, they were speaking positive about that change. They felt there was more flexibility for their students to get, you know, focused support in the areas that they need. There was still, you know, it was messy because we threw it out pretty quick. So there's still some of those details that we need to iron out to make sure that it's more streamlined and there's less wrinkles in that process. But for the most part, I think the students appreciated that time, and also teachers appreciated the time to just focus on the students that need that additional support and be able to give feedback back to students.
Great, perfect. Okay, anybody else?
I would like to add some. Well, I just wanted to give you a heartfelt thank you for advocating for our students and the work that you're doing at the high school. I can see the changes happening, and it is a breath of fresh air from the last principal, and the teachers. I know they're doing their best, but the target moves from student to student, from generation to generation, and the fact that you're involved with the students the way that you are, and listening to their complaints and their voices and acting upon them. Hats off, sir. Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. It's a team effort. So from the district office staff supporting what we do to our parents, community, our teachers working hard and developing and coming up with great ideas. But thank you.
In regards to after-school tutoring, we are currently seeing students via Zoom for their homework help. We're just waiting to get the word out, so we're working with Monica to figure out the best way to get the word out to our families. Currently, it's by appointment only. So we have a link and a whole appointment system created just for this. And we're already seeing quite a few students come forward to get help.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Okay, anybody have any comments? Okay, then I think, Paula, I close the public hearing at 6:32 p.m. Great, and so that brings us to information discussion. So 6.1 is board policies and admin regulations. So we're doing some first readings of 6 board policies that are all related to Title IX, and all of those changes are actually legal changes, not something we've done ourselves. So I'll give it to Erin. Maybe she wants to give us a little info on that.
Well, time is of the essence because we are going to need to make some changes in our postings on the website and distribution of materials. Michael just attended an extensive training about all of these changes. So it is our first read tonight, but we'll be bringing them back at the October meeting for approval by the board.
Great. So I know everybody read them thoroughly. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Great, then we can move past that. And we will move into 7 reports and start with Nicole, who's presenting the Kelso Elementary report.
So good evening, everyone. If you can believe, we have been in school for a little over a month now. And so actually the last time I reported to you was prior to the start of school. And so I wanted to just take a moment to talk about what we were doing to start the year, which really our focus for the first part of the year was to support like the routines and procedures which support virtual learning, such as managing email, how to submit assignments, how to manage multiple tabs. And so in the last week, teachers started to conduct what we call more informal assessments to just get a sense of how to split their groups up. Our back to school night was a different format this year. I called it the CES Production Studios because we made a decision at our leadership team to offer what we call asynchronous instruction, which means that the teachers in advance did their presentations and then we pushed them out to the parents. And then on the actual back to school night, we had our Q&A time. And so the feedback I got from parents is that they did appreciate having that flexibility of that drop-in meeting because many of them have more than one child in a grade level span. And so it was nice for them to be able to go in and out of meetings so that they could meet all of the teachers. And then for our providing a safe, healthy, and positive school environment, Indira, you talked about this a little bit with asking about the custodial staff for CES. What used to happen is we used to have one full-time day custodian and then a full-time and a part-time custodian, and now we have 2 full-time custodians over at CES, and it really is making a difference in terms of keeping up with that cleaning routine. Chris has done a really good job of organizing so that they are showing when they're doing those cleanings. And I know during the day, our day person comes in and thoroughly cleans the office and the doorknobs and everything. And then at night, they're going through and doing that more thorough cleaning. So the other piece of that as well is, as I said, we made some modifications in terms of our workroom and our staff room, and that seems to be doing well in terms of giving our staff more space. For parent engagement, I want to thank our folks who are doing that adjunct committee. We worked on getting a survey out that we're going to be sending to our parents. And this also came up at the Q&A administration portion of Back to School Night. They would like to see those parent engagement classes re-engaged, and they'd also like to see getting some more help with all of the technology. And then since the beginning of the year, we have been taking advantage of every other Wednesday as an opportunity to push out curriculum. Remember, we have students who are younger and they have to do some writing, and so they do need some paper-based activities. And our teachers have really been taking this as an opportunity to engage with our parents and to troubleshoot and help them out if they're having difficulty getting online. They also have done some very cute giveaways, such as art projects or reading bear buddies or things to keep kids engaged. And it's very sweet to see our families. We have them come in by alphabetical last name. They are mandated to wear masks, and we have to do everything outside. But often we're seeing the students come with their parents. And I think that it's been nice because then we can address when they're having issues with the technology or even just misunderstandings about what they need to be doing. And that's my report.
That's great, Nicole. How do you feel the teachers are holding up through everything right now?
Well, I think that we would all agree that this has been a different start to the year, but I think that people are being very positive and flexible and really working hard to keep our parent communities engaged. I think also too that they're willing to look at whatever's coming up in terms of a need and start to ask that question of, should this be done in person or should we be doing this virtually? And I think that when you are looking at going on the path of coming back to in-person learning, that's the exact kind of mindset that needs to be happening.
Good, that's great.
Nicole, how do you feel the students are doing?
It's been interesting because since last March, within a week of starting the 100% distance learning, we started to work really hard to collect data on what we call disengaged students. And on one hand, when we first started that work, I have to admit that I learned to put all assumptions aside. I have seen some students that I go, wow, I think this student's going to have a really hard time. And they end up being one of those students that in that environment are really thriving. And so that's one of the reasons why we started to do acknowledgments of those students' work. I'm not going to say that we have 100% engagement, but right now we have, in terms of disengagement, we have a total of 7 families that we're working with out of the 480 that we have. It's keeping in line with really our participation rates that we need to see. But we are working very closely with those families, which includes that if they are having issues with technology, we're actively trading out devices. I'm getting on the devices to make sure that they're connected. I think the kids, when I drop into meetings, they're very sweet. They go, "Hi, Ms. Lamar," and we kind of have a check-in. The other day I was in Mrs. Schaefer's class, and they were working on poetry, and they were, just very glad to see a visitor in class. So every day is a learning day. I'd like to be closer to 100%, but it's definitely been a learning curve for me, but also with some surprises as well.
Well, I'd like to ask you the same question. As I consider myself a student advocate, and with only 44.68% of our students graduating all the required courses for UC CSU in our school district, how can we increase this numbers with this distance learning and the template that we have before us? Because my fear is that these numbers won't increase but decrease.
Mark, were you addressing me? I didn't hear you.
No, that was for Raul.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. I thought it was for Aaron. Part of the things that we're doing is we're making sure that those students are not being engaged. We're trying to engage them, right? If you don't mind, Mark, if I could go through my report and then I could circle back to that question, is that okay? Am I ready for my report, Julie?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Raul. Thank you.
Okay, so let me, so NOCAP goal number 1, ensuring academic excellence for all our students. Classes have been in session, like Nicole said, for approximately a month. I'm really proud of the work that our teachers are doing in embracing and preparing for this distance learning model. There has been a lot of collaboration among our teachers and the use of apps and technology. We continue to focus our support on students that are not engaging to our expectations and are looking at ways to streamline our referral process and documentation process for this. Alex Andre, our new data and assessment support specialist, has been a great asset to this work, where we'll be able to use Aries and we'll continue to provide her expertise as we start this assessment protocols. As I mentioned earlier too about the palette and trying to push out this information about how students can access additional support if they need to, through our paraeducators, through the use of our ACE programs and our teen center in the community, so that we can support, again, the achievement of our students. And going into this academic excellence, we do have another WASC visit scheduled for this year. We already have a date of WASC 18th. That's when the visit will occur, and we don't know if it's going to be in person or virtually, but we do have a date. So what WASC forces us to do, and really it continues to be an ongoing process because WASC never ends. It's just a circular process, is that we keep looking at these questions like that you are asking, Mark, in terms of how are students doing, how are our A through G requirements, and making sure that we're moving the needle and progressing in that direction. So going into LCAP goal number 2, providing a safe and healthy and positive school environment. We did meet as a core wellness team a couple of weeks ago, which we looked at the social and emotional well-being of our students. And we met to prioritize the list of students that are receiving counseling support. And we will continue to meet monthly so we could explore and possibly bring small groups on campus that need more educational support. And when this happens, of course, we'll be following the protocols for safety of our students and staff. But also, Michelle Craig Morales, our school counselor, will be pushing out a wellness survey just to see the academic piece of how students are doing, and then the social emotional piece to see how students are doing in this distance learning. And when we get that data, we'll start, again, adjusting. That's been my whole message with our staff, is that this is going to be a year of really fast adjusting and looking at ways that we're going to have to address quickly so we could support our students as best as possible. In the LCAP goal number 3, increasing parent engagement and enhanced communication, we had our virtual back to school night on September 10th. Our teachers did an excellent job in creating presentations that gave a brief introduction, provided a virtual tour of their Google Classroom, and reviewed class expectations, and then the available supports, and also ended their presentation with information as to the best way for parents to get a hold of teachers. And many of the presentations that the teachers did used this translation tool where everything that was spoken was being translated at the same time and displayed on the screen so that parents can read along in Spanish if they chose to. And many of these video presentations were also made available for parents to view on their own time by accessing the students' Google Classroom. We also had a district-wide DLAC-ELAC meeting September 16th. And I'm really excited about, just because this is a group that continues to have great turnout, and the engagement of the parents is also evident, and that I think has to do with the PICA training that happened last spring. Parents are really more actively participating. Before in other ELAC-DLAC meetings, they would sit and gather their information. Now they're actively participating. We were able to, like we had elections of the last meeting, we were able to fill all our positions at the junior, senior high school of officers that we needed. And parents, again, actively participate. They raise their hand, they ask questions, they ask for additional support where needed. So circling back to your question, Mark, you know, it's one of those things that the WASP process will continue to guide us in that direction. And we're going to have to kind of keep looking at how to motivate our students to do better, make those personal connections with kids. And then as soon as we could get them on campus, we'll get them on campus. We're, again, trying to be strategic as to starting with small groups, bringing them on campus, the ones that are needing the extra support, and the ones that are needing the technology, the Wi-Fi access, and that are having difficulties at home with drop calls and drop internet connections. We're trying to bring them on campus so we could address some of those concerns as soon as possible. So I don't know if that answered your question, Mark, or if you have additional or any other members.
I mean, I know we're all doing the best that we can, you know, and I'd like to, our past superintendent had a little blurb on the back as Darwin. It says, it's not the smartest or the strongest of species, and I'm paraphrasing, by the way, but it's the one that's able to adapt. And I mean, now's the time for all our staff to just think outside the box, push it forward, because these kids' futures matter. All these parents that are voicing their concerns, I mean, there's no other parent should have a greater concern than the betterment of their child, to push them beyond what they got, from what they've, from the state, from the position in which they are. I'm frightened. I'm so frightened right now with student achievement and because these kids matter. I walk this town and I see past graduates struggling to find employment, struggling to find gainful employment, struggling to find a living wage, and dropping out of college after doing 3 years. I mean, I am frightened. So please, Mr. Guerrero, keep up the good work and do whatever in your power to help these kids.
My message for my staff has always been and continues to be, and you know, you could ask my teachers and they'll say they've heard this from me, is that we need to give our students our best because they deserve our best. Same like our children do, and I expect that of their teachers, you know, my kids. And same with the kids that we're teaching, we need to give them our best because they deserve it.
I'd just like to chime in. Thank you for the report on DLAC and parent engagement. That's fabulous news and very heartening. And I think that's a really big part of this puzzle. You know, that's why it's our LCAP goal number 3. We need the parents involved to help everybody move forward. And so I think that's fantastic that we're seeing it in DLAC. And I think that's a good reason to bring PK back when we have the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, any other questions for Raul before we move on? Okay, then we're going on to Erin for her report.
So under LCAP goal number 1, ensuring academic excellence for all of our students, we continue our work on the complex task that's been mentioned earlier in the meeting of trying to prepare our students for the reopening of school. Michael held a workshop last Friday for potential substitutes to review the new district protocols and expectations for working in this COVID-19 environment. And as a result of his very strong recruitment efforts, we had 25 subs attended the training, which is remarkable. Alexandria is going to follow up with a workshop later this week that's specific to the digital platforms that teachers are using in their classes. And that we're doing that because we cannot possibly open school unless we have a sufficient substitute pool, because we do know that teachers become ill or they have appointments they have to attend. So I want to thank Michael for being so proactive in his actions in that area. Under LCAP goal number 2, providing a safe, healthy, and positive school environment. As I mentioned last Monday, the Napa County School District Superintendents have been meeting every week, sometimes bi-weekly, to discuss our plans for the reopening of in-person school. And we're all working on various remaining issues. We have some similarities, but there are also some differences just based on the size of our schools. So Napa County Public Health and the Napa County Office of Education just updated their guidance today. I just received the copy right before this board meeting. So that's going to be released to all the schools, and then I also release it to our parents. One of the recommendations is that the classroom cohorts now can hold no more than 14 students and 2 adults, and they have to remain stable. So that's what Nicole was talking about earlier in the meeting. Another change is that symptom screening is going to require families to sign a compact that they will, at home, they're going to conduct a daily screening for COVID-19 symptoms of their children. Our schools are also going to be mandated to take every child's temperature before they enter their classrooms. So we are purchasing standing units, which will read temperatures from the wrist or the forehead, either one, but it will allow us to bring in large groups of kids in a very efficient manner. The units are not inexpensive, but we feel that they'll be the best thing for our school. Another challenge that we're experiencing right now is how to address the California Department of Public Health recommendation to test all of our staff members at least once every 2 months, but that seems like it's going to possibly be solved too, because the health department has agreed to offer a drive-through clinic once a week at the fairgrounds, which should make that very convenient for CJSD employees. And our district is also going to be assisting with contact tracing. So Michael has spoken to our CSCA officers, and we have 2 who are going to be willing to be trained by the Napa County Health Department. I just spoke to our school nurse this afternoon, and she also is going to receive training, so she can assist with the contact tracing. So as Nicole mentioned, we are going to be bringing back cohorts of students back onto the elementary campus on September 28th to begin the administration of MAP and the subjects of math and reading and science. And the kids are going to be tested in small groups and from the same cohort. This is a new online assessment, so both teachers and students, it will be helpful to have a small group setting. It's also a good way, I think, to transition kids back to the new classroom, because they have, they've not been in their new classrooms, and they're young, so it's going to be a new experience. And I think it's also going to help really reinforce a sense of community to encourage their social emotional health. And then under LCAP goal number 3, increasing parent engagement and enhancing communication. I also want to say I'm very grateful for the parents who participated in the DLAC. Rolls right, the attendance was excellent. They also participated in the ELAC. Both schools held an ELAC meeting and school site council meetings last week. I really appreciate their time, their questions, and feedback on the learning continuity attendance plan. And I'm going to give you more details at the next meeting, but we are going to be able to move forward with PK as well as add some offerings that we were not able to add this particular year. So I'm excited about that. And as soon as I get the contract, I'll explain it more. Then lastly, we were recently contacted by a woman named Wanda Carter, who currently lives in Texas. And her mother's name is Arlene Bond. She graduated from Calistoga High School in 1949. Unfortunately, she now suffers from Alzheimer's disease, but Mrs. Carter felt that her mom would want her yearbook donated back to the school. So we received this very special 70-year-old piece of Calistoga High history today, which I will give to Raul. But it was great fun for me to look at it quickly, and I think it would be great to have it at the school site for everybody to see. So I appreciate her kindness in shipping it back to us. It's very thoughtful. That's all I have tonight.
So I can't remember what year my grandmother graduated, but can I come take a peek at it? Because it seems like it might be about that year.
Absolutely. The classes were about 27 to 30 kids, each class.
And she used to walk from Sharp Road all the way down Cordham Canyon to go to school every day. And one day said, I don't know why you don't just have your kids walk home from school up to my house. I was like, it's a little different now.
Julie, so what year did your family show up? My wife's family showed up in 18. It goes from 87 or 1890. What year did your family show up?
Well, I think the first year was 1852, but the house that's up on Sharp Road was built in 1864.
You win.
I'm surprised it's still standing, really. Okay, so now thank you, Erin, and thank you, everybody. It's just been such an amazing amount of hard work on everybody's part, from the kids to the administration to the teachers to everybody. So I just want to commend everybody on so much hard work. I think we're so successful right now, and I've heard, just so you know, I've been in 5 districts through my children's education, and I still hear from lots of those people, and I can't tell you how proud I am of what we've done to accomplish in such a short time compared to many other districts. So I just want to commend everybody and thank everybody for their hard work. Uh-oh, my dog's gonna bark, sorry. Okay, so moving on then from Erin to the consent agenda. So even though Paula made the font bigger, I can't read it. Actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board, the audience, or staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. So I just want to make sure nobody needs to discuss anything separately. If not, then I'm just looking for a motion to go ahead and approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Great, and it is not a roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. It is roll.
It is a roll call vote. Sorry, my pages were cut off. So President Elkishan, aye. Clerk Reed?
Aye.
Trustee Lopez Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Maxfield?
Aye.
And Trustee Galindo? Just hit that space bar, Mark.
Aye.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so moving into action items. So we have a couple action items tonight. So we're gonna start, let me just read the protocol. Protocol for action items includes staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person. So we're gonna start off where we left off last week on Resolution 2021-03, affirming the district's commitment to equity. Just a quick recap. Erin presented a resolution. Trustee Galindo wanted to edit and represent a version of the resolution. And now what we're doing is we're bringing both of them back to the board and the public. And I think at this point, we've had quite a bit of discussion, and I don't know if anybody would like to make any comments about anything, or if we want to just go ahead and move to affirm one or the other.
Julie, I'm confused on why the bottom resolution is there, because it didn't have any support on the last meeting. So I am baffled on why it's still there. So that's my statement. My feelings about the bottom resolution is still there. I feel it's necessary, but I'm the only one that feels that way. So please, I feel I'm baffled on why it's there. It's redundant if I think.
I think, Mark, that we just agreed we're bringing them both back in case there's any more further discussion. But if somebody wants to move to approve, there's two of them on there, so make sure that we're talking about the right one. The revised one or the original one. I'd be looking for a motion right now.
I would like to move to approve the original proclamation proposed by the district.
Okay, great. Then I'm just looking for a second on that. Does somebody second it?
I'll second.
And then all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
And opposed?
I abstain.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, then we will go ahead and say no's and one abstain. Okay, and then moving on to resolution 2021-05, student representative introduction. So following California Education Code 34012, which provides the board to authorize its students to make motions that may be acted upon by the board, except on employer-employee relations pursuant to Government Code 3540, 3549.3, 2021 school year is Miss Brianna Rubio. So welcome, Brianna. We're so excited to have you here. And am I right that you are a junior this year?
Senior, actually.
Senior, okay, great, Brianna. Yay, so we'll hope that you have some semblance of a regular senior year after the next month. So I think that I understand that you might have a report that you already put together to present tonight.
Yes, I do.
Right. All right, then the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Well, hopefully my Wi-Fi doesn't cut me off here, but first I would like to thank everyone for having me here today. And I would also like to say this is still relatively new to me, so I'm sorry if the report is not quite what everyone expects, but I promise to try my best. But to begin the report, I would like to address the fact that this school year has been a lot more organized and far more efficient than last spring. And if we can all remember back to last spring, not many teachers were using Zoom, so that alone made the learning aspect a bit more complicated to adjust to, just because those students were a little more accustomed to that face-to-face interaction with the teachers. As mentioned before, the school year has felt more assembled and put together. Therefore, it allows the students to, in a way, return to that student-to-teacher experience. However, there were a few comments I've heard from a couple of teachers about how it's still rather hard to maintain that communication with the students through just a screen. But from observing my peers, I have also noticed that working from home for some can be quite stressful, as teachers too can also have trouble communicating clearly. Not only this, but I've also taken into notice that there has been much less student interaction in comparison to before. I feel like students are more prone to not asking as many questions as they'd like to because of this like odd new way of doing school. So, but overall, this is all I have for now about my peers. Although I feel like I will be conducting a couple surveys maybe in the next couple of months, in which I will ask for their insight about their experiences from this distance learning curriculum. Now on to ASB. For now, we have not been able to accomplish much because of the current distancing protocols established in our county. But both Mr. Guerrero and the rest of the student body have been hard at work making designing each grade's class shirts, as this is one of the only things that we can do safely from the comfort of our homes without breaking those protocols set in place. But of course, there's no rush to get this completed soon, since unfortunately there will be no homecoming nor football games next month. But I feel like creating these shirts has brought back some school spirit between my peers and I, and hopefully we can return back to normal soon. And that's all. Thank you.
My space bar wasn't working. That was a great report. I loved it. And don't forget, you are like our boots on the ground. So you have to come back every month and let us know what the temperature is and how you guys are feeling. And I think that probably Patty's still on here. Did we lose? Oh, there she is. It's great for the teachers to hear that too, so that they know that like getting people more engaged. And yeah, so Brianna, thank you. You're going to be a great addition to the team. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Brianna.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brianna, welcome aboard. Your predecessor, she brought the driver's training. So please, you have big shoes to fill. Bring something for the kids. Bring change. Make it better for y'all.
Perfect. Okay, great. So if we were in a live meeting, Brianna, you would have this really amazing plaque that would sit right in front of you that would have your name engraved in it, which you will still get, I promise. Okay.
I move that we adopt the resolution to seat the student rep.
Thank you, Matt.
Second.
Thanks, Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Welcome, Brianna.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so then moving on to the agreement with the Persinger Architects. I'm going to send it to Chris.
Hey everybody, it's good to talk. It's been a while. It's been a lot of meetings on mute, so it's good to talk to you a little bit. I can't wait to see you in person. But so as we were moving forward on the fencing project, we determined the DSA should be signing off on it. Typically fencing below 8 feet doesn't require it, but due to the location of the fencing and the impact it has on the egress, DSA is required. So I contacted 2 architects in the hopes of finding one that could do it the fastest, and we'd like to go with Persinger because they were able to come through with a faster turnaround, and they were also cheaper. Persinger feels this can be done over the counter versus a full DSA review, which is a plus. Based on current DSA scheduling, they're anticipating scheduling with the DSA and submitting around between the 1st and the 8th, with about a 1 week to 2 week DSA process, which would put us at mid-October to give the contractor notice to proceed. I wasn't able to get an updated lead time on the materials. I'm hoping to get that soon, but when we were first starting the project, it was looking to be 4 to 6 weeks. My hope is that now that we're out of the summer rush to get projects done, that material lead time is slower, but I'm kind of worried that schools are doing the same thing we are. They're still trying to get cramming a bunch of projects while there's no kids around. So the fencing project itself, installation, we'd probably be looking at Thanksgiving at this point and about 3 weeks for installation. The fencing goes in and then measurements are taken of the opening to fabricate the gate precisely. With that, we're requesting board approval to approve the agreement with Persinger.
Great job, Chris. Anybody have any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, just a clarifying question, Chris. So if the project will be done by Thanksgiving, and we are going to be, hopefully seeing some small cohorts of students coming to the schools, how is that going to work? Are we gonna use temporary fencing, or what is
No, we wouldn't be able to use temporary fencing because that would cause a major egress problem, because there's no way to close those gates and to make those gates easily and open and closed. We did put up signs at all the entrances, basically saying that everybody, the campus is closed and everybody must go to the front office. Hopefully that's having some impact on anybody that's been coming into the campus. But yeah, I didn't anticipate on such a delay on the fencing. So we're hoping to get it done as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for the motion.
I make a motion to approve the architects.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Thank you. Okay. All right. So now we are looking at the agreement with DMR Builders. That's you again, Chris.
It is, and I'm kind of having the same issue that Julie's having with the dog, except it's my neighbor's dog, so if you can hear
I can't
it,
hear
I
it.
apologize. So we got through the DSA process on the junior high renovation. We've finished the bid process. The lowest bidder came in, was DMR Builders. Their timeline for the project is 6 weeks or less, specifically because I used the tile specs from the gym, and randomly there is one of the tile types that has an 8-week lead time, 6 to 10 week actually. So I've asked them to look for a matching alternative. Tile's tile as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's the same gray and the same size and thickness, there shouldn't be any reason we can't go with that. So hopefully we can get that turned around, but regardless, if that's the case and we can find shorter lead times, it would be less than 4 weeks to complete that project. If we do end up with students coming back and we do want to provide them restrooms, there was an alternate bid for portable restrooms. It's not a standard porta potty. We asked for a specific, nicer type setup with a sink, kind of like the ones that are on a trailer. You might see a stuff, so by bathrooms, and we didn't want to use the gym restrooms. We finished that project by the end of October, and basically looking for board approval to send DMR the notice to get going.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Questions, anybody? All right, then just looking for a motion to approve the DMR Builders contract.
So move.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And for Mark.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Oh, Brianna, I'm sorry. Usually we'll let you drop off if you need to, if you have homework. You're welcome to stay as long as you want, but you don't have to. Okay?
I'll go ahead and leave. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Thank you. Okay. And then moving on to 9.6, which is our MOU with Napa Valley Adult Education.
This is an agreement that you have seen in the past. It will bring the adult ed courses onto our campus, and it's with the Napa Valley Adult Education Consortium.
I just had a question. So is it going to be physically on campus?
That is the intent. Yes.
Good.
Right now they're talking about doing virtual, but they would like to at some point be able to bring them on campus, following all the COVID protocols.
Right. Okay, great. So looking for a motion to go ahead and approve the MOU for NVA.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Thanks, guys. And then 9.7, establishing a, oh no, I'm sorry. Request to approve MOU with NVAE as presented.
That's the one you just
No,
did.
that's the one I just said. Oh, sorry. See, hang on.
You're on the correct path, 9.7.
All right, 9.7. Sorry, I couldn't see. Establishing additional regularly scheduled board meetings.
So this is the board meeting that I need for you to approve the learning continuity and attendance plan. And it would be for September 25th at 3:30 p.m. I predict it would be a short meeting.
So just looking for a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay. Then going on to 9.8, board policies and admin regulations. So basically we are just going back and approving the board members that we did the read through at the last meeting. So if there are no questions on any of those, we're just looking for a motion to go ahead and approve those 6 new board policies, revised board policies.
So moved.
Great.
Second?
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And then 10.1, just going over the board meeting calendar. So next regularly scheduled board meeting is going to be Monday, October 5th at 6 p.m. And then Monday, November 2nd at 6 p.m. And as of right now, we are planning on doing those virtually via Zoom. And then 10.2, tentative future agenda items. Just doing our routine sufficiency of instructional materials. And I know we're going to have a few more things on there. No need to reconvene to closed sessions. So I am just looking for our favorite motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Great. Second?
Second?
Great. Thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Great. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So did we, I didn't